Dr. Laura Grantier, and I am the Assistant Professor of Clarinet at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City.
And my name is Ryan Wing. I'm a senior music education major here at the University of Utah and one of the drum majors for the Marching Youths.
And today we are going to be talking about the Utah All-State Band Clarinet Etude. If you don't know where to find it, it is on the UMEA website under All-State Band. In this particular etude, you will be performing the etude and the A ending. So make sure you perform the A ending and not the B. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the construction of this etude. I think one of the biggest issues in this etude is it starts off in 2/4 and then goes into 3/8 and then back into 2/4. So one of the things that we have to be really consistent with is our rhythm. And so once you start, you need to be consistent in your rhythm through the 3/8 bar. What do you think?
I like to think about eighth notes running through all of the 2/4 bars as well, leading into the 3/8 bar to keep me honest.
Great. And I like to think that this opening is stylistically, would we describe this as happy, sad? What would we describe it as?
I think happy, energetic. In the tempo description, it says allegro agitato, so a little agitated and exciting.
Agitated and exciting. Okay, I like that. And then that's the first section. And then we have a section that says arioso lo stesso tempo. So one of the things that's really important is to understand the directions for whatever piece of music that you're working on. And so in this case, arioso means singing, like an aria. And lo stesso tempo means?
Same tempo. As
before, correct. So the important thing to remember is that the tempo that you're going to be at the beginning is, it says eighth note equals eighth note in the middle section. So we want to be very careful that we don't slow down too much in this middle section. So on that point, let's talk about the middle section. We have a key change.
Yes, we do.
Yes, so the beginning of the etude is actually no sharps and no flats. So it's in the key of A minor. But then once we get to the middle section, we have 3 sharps, which tells us it's in the key of A
major.
Yes, A major. So let's talk about the challenges of this middle section.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and we see it right in the first measure, is range. We start shifting between the ranges often, and at the same time we're slurring. We're not tonguing to help us get there, and it has to be song-like, so smooth and beautiful.
Yes, very much so. Another thing that I've noticed is the dynamic range. So we have, in the beginning, we have a mezzo piano, and then 2 bars later we have a mezzo forte, and then it kind of repeats itself, right? We have 1 forte in this first section, and then we have another forte followed by a pianissimo. So it's really important to pay attention to your dynamics. So now, once we're finished with this A major section, what happens then?
We go right back to that A minor section at the beginning.
That's right. And then we take the A ending, which goes into 3/8 time. So it's a little bit of a da-dee-da-da-da-da, kind of like a waltz almost.
Almost, yeah.
And then it ends with a really cute pianissimo. Bum. So when we come back to the A minor section, we have this figure, dee-da-da-da-dee. Could you play that first measure?
Yeah.
Yes, so what is written is 4/16 and a quarter note. And the first 2/16 are slurred, but the first 16th has an accent to kind of give you that downbeat pulse that we need for a strong beat like beat 1. Now, do we want to hit that note very hard or just give it emphasis?
Give it emphasis.
Give it emphasis, that's right. So how do you prepare for playing that accented 16th followed by the 2 staccato notes?
think we have our tongue ready to start moving on the staccato notes.
I like it. Can you play it one more time
Sure.
to demonstrate? Yes, very nice. Now, when we get to the 3/8 section, our rhythm is an 8th note followed by 4 16th notes that are staccato. Can you just play that 3/8 bar? Very nice. That's a nice staccato. How do you work on your staccato? Is there any particular exercise that you do or anything that you think about in your tongue placement?
Yeah, I think about my tongue moving quickly, and I think about having the air moving consistently all the way through. A good exercise is just going through a C major scale and just doing 4 16th notes on each one, all the way up and down.
Can you just give us a little
Sure.
demonstration? Very good. Now, I love that. I think that's actually a great exercise. So I want to go back to the middle section, which is the A major section. Number one, we have to be mindful that we have 3 sharps. So if you're not sure if that G is really a G sharp, use your pencil and it's okay to mark it in. That way you won't forget. So can we talk about this opening? Can you just play the first 8 bars, please? Lovely, and it's a lovely 8-bar phrase. How do we feel about the style of this middle section?
It's important to realize that it's a completely different style, even though it's the same tempo as the first section.
Very good, very good. Now, we have that A to A octave leap. How are you approaching that with your air in terms of your sound production to make sure that those speak in time?
I'm making sure that there's lots of air in between the 2 notes to help me get to the higher one.
Yes, and I also noticed that you made a nice dynamic contrast from the mezzo forte to the piano. I find that piano, I'm good at playing piano, I'm good at playing mezzo piano and forte, but sometimes the mezzo forte dynamic is a little elusive. What do you think? What is your approach when you're trying to think about a dynamic like the mezzo piano and mezzo forte?
Yeah, I think it's important to pay attention to what the music's asking you to do. So in this context, mezzo forte is confidence in the singing, the aria part of this section. And then the piano is obviously softer and sweeter, and a nice way to end the phrase.
I agree. Now, I want to talk about measure 34. Measure 34 is kind of a challenging measure because we have a throat tone G sharp to an altissimo E. So that's a huge interval change, isn't it?
Yes.
What are you thinking when you are trying to go from the G sharp and then re-articulate the altissimo E?
Like before, lots of air, of course. Thankfully, we can re-articulate, which will help us a little bit to get up to that high E. And I'm also thinking about my oral cavity. There's a change between the 2 registers of what my mouth is doing. So to go up to the high E, I'm making sure that inside in my oral cavity, I'm focusing the air to help me get there.
Awesome. Can we start in measure 30 and just play to measure 36?
Absolutely.
Very nice, very nice. Let's see. And then we have a sequence that starts in measure 34. So a sequence is a rhythm that happens 3 times, except our notes change slightly, don't they? When we are playing in measure 35 and 37 and 39 and going through those 16th passages, how are you approaching your air? Because you keep everything nice and consistent. The sound is full and each note gets its proper value.
Yeah. Just like you said, consistency. So thinking, even though the notes are moving, my air is not changing. It's staying consistent all the way through that measure.
Yes, indeed it is. So why don't we start, can we do 30? And then I'd like for us to do the transition from 43 into 44.
Okay.
And just maybe play just the first couple of bars.
Okay.
So Brian, why do we try out for things as artists, as musicians? Why is that important?
Well, I think it pushes us. It makes us better when we are learning new solos that we wouldn't normally. We're spending time getting better at our instruments, focusing on two different styles, articulating, dynamics, all the things that, you know, our music teachers, our band directors, our orchestra directors are always telling us to do. And on top of that, once you're there, you're making friends. You're being collaborative with new people. You're having new experiences.
Yes, and sometimes those friends that you meet at places like All-State Band, they become your lifelong friends.
Yeah.
You just never know. I'm curious as to how you did prepare the etude.
Yeah, slowly and with a metronome, especially the staccato sections. Going back and forth between that 2/4 and 3/8 time, setting your metronome slowly to an eighth note. Da 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 da. Practicing things like that, I think, was the biggest thing for me. And also in the slower section, just thinking about air all the way through, and maybe paying a little bit less attention sometimes to articulation or notes and just kind of focusing on my sound and then going back in and correcting.
And I really love how you sang the opening phrase. I always tell students, if you sing it, you can play it. So you intuitively did that, and I think it shows in your preparation and how you played, especially the opening of the etude. So now that we've prepared the etude, now we have to record it, because students have to send in a video recording. And in our experience, we have found that sometimes the first recording isn't the recording.
Yes.
And that's okay. The first recording is kind of a great way to just, if you have any anxiety, you just kind of get that out of the way. And then you're a little bit more relaxed. And how did you feel? I think we did it a few times, 2 or 3 times. And how did you feel after that initial first recording?
Yeah, I think a lot of your nerves go away after the first time, even when you're alone in your room or in the kitchen, wherever you're gonna rehearse and record it. You're always less nervous the second and third time, and you know, if you make a little mistake, you get it the next time. And I showed in how we were recording this. It took a couple times, but we found one that we liked a lot more.
Exactly. So I would say, don't be so hard on yourself. If you don't get it the first time, you'll definitely get it the second or third time. And the most important thing to remember is that anytime we work on a piece of music, we practice, as you said earlier, we are developing our skills and we are becoming better musicians overall. So we really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and we thank you for listening.